Maybe if you have any questions about the story, or I'm sure you are curious about what happened to the story afterwards, or about this particular form called pansori. I will entertain your question.
When are these stories supposed to have been most commonly used?
Today?
Today, or minimum wages, or when did they start and become popular?
You mean the underwater palace story, or pansori, or the story thing?
The pansori.
Pansori. It was, they say, discovered about 300 years ago. Down in a village in the southwestern province, a bureaucrat, usually like bureaucrats were dispatched from the central government, right? And he was there, and one day he saw in the marketplace a very interesting art form, the singing, telling stories, and people would kind of gather around. And so that was the beginning of the recording, that he recorded the narrative that he heard. And I'm sure he got some help, the bureaucrats, the yangban, the nobility had all kinds of power in the old times. So I'm sure he said, okay, 여봐라, 계약서 없느냐, go and fetch that singer that I saw in the marketplace. And so I'm sure he kept him for several days to, scribe whatever he was doing. And so that was the beginning of the written, the recording. So we don't know, how long it had been in place. And maybe for any art form to take such finesse shape, I'm sure it takes a long time.
Would you liken it to that of Homer and his stories of the Iliad and Ulysses and so forth?
Iliad and Odyssey?
History? Yeah.
With the pansori?
Yeah, would you liken it to
well, that definitely would be an interesting experiment. And it would be an interesting experiment. Also consider that perhaps for Iliad and Odyssey, the storytelling or story singing form, the Slovakian, or that regional format, probably that can be reconstructed. That would match better because of the cultural linguistic association. But it definitely would be an interesting experiment. In fact, this past summer, I was in Korea and I saw this production by very talented young pansori singers, 3 ladies. They were doing the Good Woman of Sichuan, adapted into Korean, and the pansori, and they were doing it in pansori. So it is kind of, gaining some visibility. And in fact, the other day they brought it into Los Angeles and did it there. My friend told me, it's an interesting experiment. Any other questions?
Well, where is it taught? How did you learn it?
How did I learn it?
Yeah, in academies or?
From my teacher. Yeah, the pansori, it's not something you can learn as a kind of choir type, like a group learning. Sometimes you do that too, among some classmates that you share the years together. But this is really one-on-one. And I started in 1974, and by chance, really by chance, I don't know how I got into it, but I got into it, and I continued, and today it all seems to make sense, that there was some reason why I got into it, although at the time it wasn't obvious. And I liked it because the singing quality matched my vocal quality much better than if I had tried Western classical singing, which was mandatory during my middle school and high school for 6 years. I was bad pretty much in this music class, and at the time we had 3 hours of music each week. The middle school and high school I went to, the arts and humanities was very, very important. And Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had to just go in there, not knowing what to do, because I know how to sing. It's all here. I have very good ear, but I just couldn't hit that falsetto. You know? And if you can't do that, then you are nobody, right? I just didn't exist. But when I met Pantori, I knew that really was, you know, my vocal cord was meant for that. And so, and I had no reason to stop, so I kept going. And my teacher passed away in 1986, and then I went to a couple of different teachers because, you know, especially because Pantori is such a remote singing, right? And when you lose your teacher, when you feel kind of, you know, I guess it's like losing your parents, almost, you know. Then you kind of don't know, where do I find my mother, where do I find my father? And the situation with the teacher is, where do I find my teacher? My teacher is gone, oh my God, what to do? You become kind of, you feel you have to have more lessons, and, you know, you have to somehow, you know, be dependent. And so I did that for several years. Then I realized that I really have to, at this point, stand on my own feet. And then kind of, you know, reconstruct what I learned and practice and make it good. Because it's not just, you know, going up and down, the singing, the voice, the, you know, flow of the voice, but it's really what counts is what you're singing. I guess that's what it is, you know, when it's being read aloud. You know, when we read, what do we read? Are we just reading you know, the words and without really thinking about it? So there is very deep. It makes you kind of force you to concentrate. I mean, you know, concentration isn't always there. I'm a human being too. You know, I look at, you know, different you, and I get curious about you too, and I think about you, and then, oh my God, where am I? You know, kind of coming back here, because that's what the performance is all about. And so, you know, that's how I am where I am today. Yeah. Yes.
How do the younger generations in Korea see this art form? Because in other areas.
Are you a younger generation Korean?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you see it?
I'm not Korean. So this is the first time I see a performance like this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious because in other areas of Asia, I know some traditional art forms are disappearing. For example, you know, even in China, for example, the Peking opera is losing a lot of its audience because, you know, younger generations tend not to be very interested.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you from China?
Yes.
Okay. And what do you feel about that?
Well, I think to some extent it's like the trend. I mean, you can't really overcome it. I mean, time has passed and it's
True. It is a trend, yes, because we cannot expect everybody in the mass, which is what we are, to really think about what, you know, where the root is. You know, every moment we live, we are clearly tied to the root, which is a tradition. Only it's not visible. That's why in this world that is so oriented towards visibility, young people, it's not just young people too, middle-aged people, old people, you know, they kind of also go where the something that is, you know, immediate thing is. And so we cannot expect them to think about these issues all the time. Also, we cannot expect that those who think about these issues and have faith in the value and the essence of this, we cannot expect them all to pack and disappear either. You know what I mean? And so sometimes maybe people may say, "Oh, why are you doing that? You know, why don't you listen to this kind of music and dance this kind of dance, eat this kind of food, and why don't you do that?" There is a social pressure, cultural pressure. You have to be in with the crowd, okay? But then not everybody is in with that crowd. And so perhaps that's where the balance is. Yes. And there are young people here. And I have great admiration for you spending your precious afternoon hour to find out, about this art form and, what it has to say. So that's good. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
I was curious, the stories and the way they're performed in the music element, if are they very structured and rehearsed, or
yes.
is there an element of improvisation?
Improvisational element always exists in whatever form and on football field, right? Especially when you forget your lines. But as a singer, you want to be an accomplished singer or player. You want to practice rehearse your move, every move before. If you don't, then maybe you are too arrogant. Then you go into the field or on stage and something happens. That's when your improvisational skill comes in. And that's how this, at least tradition in this context, is kept. Rather than, you don't want to follow the old people singing. Why? You are you. Why shouldn't you just do it in your own way? Of course you can do it, but that takes a long time. And nobody who want to learn singing, dancing, there are kind of thousands and tens of thousands of years old rules, okay? Nobody will say first, well, I don't have patience to learn this. Why can't I do it my way? Those people, after, maybe 2 months, they all disappear into the world. So, people are so eager to learn the move your teacher teaches, has taught. Look at this rock. This is a beautiful rock. I think this is from Iran or Afghanistan, because I have a small version. People, from when they are little children, they're usually like little girls, they start weaving. Usually girls weave, right? Men go hunting and, girls weave. And what they do is that they learn every move that their aunties and older sisters and mothers and grandmothers do. Nobody will say, no, I want to go the other way. But then, so you inherit a tradition, okay? And it becomes part of your psyche, part of your world, the way you think, the way you look at the world, okay? And then, sometimes, something happens, and you want to create something new. But then after, it really gets melted into your whole creativity. And that takes a long time. And none of us measure time, okay, when can I get there? Because just doing it and with that kind of hope and expectation, that already makes us happy. Us being people, all of us. So that's how you kind of look at the old tradition and innovation. Innovation is a valuable thing. It's like you see this big old tree, huge trunk, 700-year-old tree, and then one spring you see little flower, a little flower up there somewhere, and that is how dear that innovation is.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.